Hi, another episode, another year, but a new decade this time out. Goodbye 90s, hello noughties. For me, a real heads down year, studying for a master's in computer science, so a lot of other stuff just got shelved, benched, mothballed. And come September, no let up. I'd done well enough to consider staying on and studying for a PhD. And that, for my sins, is what I chose to do. What can I say? It started well, but by the following year, well, I'll save that for next time. And the band? Yeah, well, we just kept things ticking over. I forget exactly when we started recording demo stuff, maybe this year, I'm not sure, but we did manage to fit in some gigs despite my limited availability. The one that I remember best was this one. It was another Wild Club night, and this time we were supporting Doves touring their debut album. Fairly sure they had an additional tour support too in the form of Echo Boy, but yeah, that's all I got for 2000. On with the music then, and many of you, judging by some of your comments, thought that 1999 was just as bad a year as I'd remembered. The year 2000, much, much better, I think, with some big releases this year that deserve at least a passing mention. Biggest of which probably Kid A. Yeah, you know how I feel about Radiohead by now. Respect, appreciation, but very much a kind of an at-arm's length relationship. Still, maybe their best album, although opinions do diverge on that one. And how about Parachutes? Coldplay's debut. I have very vague recollections of being personally introduced to Chris Martin at some point this year. Very nice chap, good tunes, but 5 times Glastonbury headliners? There's something wrong there, I think. Good albums too this year by PJ Harvey, Godspeed, Yola Tango. But in keeping with what was an exceedingly focused year for me, just a handful of candidates this episode. First, Battle Champions by Dianoga, a band favourite, the instrumental trio of Jay, Jason and Kip, usually 2 bass guitars and drums with occasional vocals, and on this record a typically precise piece of Albini engineering. This is Chicago school post-rock, ornate, notched melody lines but skidding into surprisingly traditional song structures. And all that minimal trio-centric geometry is fully exposed by the production. Like a clock housed under glass, its cogs and workings oddly hypnotic and pleasing to the eye. A lot warmer and more homespun feeling than many of the marquee post-rock bands of the day. Less chin-stroking, more hair-ruffling. 11 tracks, a perfect 37 minutes, at the mercy of the Mustang, indie rock, Spock ears, and time for a game of stick. These are all ideal approach vectors to planet Dianoga. That name, Dianoga, by the way, it was the garbage-crushing monster from the original Star Wars movie. So if you've never heard them before, then these may be the dudes you're looking for. Move along. So I do keep banging on about these chaps, but what can I say? At this point in time, they were purring. This is The Red Line by Trans Am. The end of a 5-album hot streak. This one has a good shout at being their best overall album. It's long, 70 plus minutes, but runs the gamut of Trans Am styles from Newman-esque synth punk to playful electronica, from rabidly precise power prog to metronomic druid metal. Yeah, I Want It All is the new order with robot voices you never knew you needed. Play in the Summer, Black Sabbath view through a post-punk heat haze. Slow Response, an eerie anthemic grind. Lunar Landing, all bleeping off-world Minimalia and menace. But this is the album where they chained their combos, they nailed their landings, and perfect sixed the judges in the space of 1 track. That's The Dark Gift, transitioning from prog folk perfection into burbling drum circle mantra, and then into numbed beatific Stargate synth wash. 10 minutes long, a phenomenal track, they've never topped it, and the whole album plays like some kind of imaginary label sampler. As an album in its entirety, it's not easy going, but it's very, very rewarding. And I can hear the groans already for the second time. Another VAR decision, another goal disallowed by the finest of margins. This is 1000 Hertz by Shellac, the only album of theirs that I'm still missing a physical of, a situation I must rectify as soon as possible. Because in the Shellac pecking order, It's probably between this and 2014's Dude Incredible for me, behind Action Park. Shellac, doing shellac things. That weird post-punk draftsman's chugel, 70s hard rock riffs and rhythms, pulled slack like taffy, then mashed into staccato nuggets and blips. Everything separated until it isn't. It's shellac. I think what elevates 1000 Hertz is that sense of just right. They stretch out on a few songs, Mama Gina, for instance, but don't double down on the structure and pace as they did detrimentally, I think, on Terraform. And the lyrics, some of Albini's best, I reckon, are the cold retribution of prayer to God, the currency with Oswald's face on it in Canaveral, and the customer service meltdown of the rippling Watch song. And that number again, 37.
37.
I'm 37?!
What is it with 37-minute albums? No awkward glances at your watch or fidgeting. In, out, business concluded. So far that's 3 albums, 3 trios, no waste, minimal staffing, well-oiled operations, one and all. And my final choice for today only really hits one of those KPIs. Something of a revolving lineup with a tight core, only a handful of releases over the preceding 6 years, so not exactly prolific. But this album in particular, is devastatingly economical. Less so in runtime, but not a single breath or note or hit is wasted. An absolute masterclass in minimalism. This is the 4 Carnation and their self-titled album, The 4 Carnation. I mean, why even waste time on such frivolities as dedicated album titles? At least on the surface, this is one austere record. And yet, bend an ear, and for all the space, the hush, the clammy proximity of the production, there is almost nothing for you, the listener, to do. Because this isn't the kind of minimalism that asks you to fill the blanks, to project, to stage. Some supremely well-judged creative choices, understated colours, tones, light touch strokes, combining to render emotions and situations with a quiet forcefulness. That's 2 albums in this series, back-to-back years no less, from members of Slint, each picking and amplifying on aspects of their former band's method. David Peo corralling the rolling fragmentary melodies and sharp turnabouts into a much warmer music by Ariel M and Papa M. And here, Brian McMahon taking the atmosphere of stunned, ghostly dread and concentrating it down to its barest essence in the 4 Carnation. Just to be clear, it's the absence here that defines this wonderful record. None of the big moment jump scares of Spiderland. This is quiet horror, a sustained Ari Aster atmosphere of thick, omnipresent dread, a slow burn. This is a Rosemary's Baby, putting it a million miles from the glowering heft of Godspeed or Mogwai, with none of the crystalline peaks of Sigur Rós. The twisting dynamics of post-rock's most evolved form are gone. This is closer to the stunned torpor of slowcore, or the foggy, oppressive grandeur of trip-hop acts like Massive Attack. Sonically, a really consistent recording, dark, thick bass, flat, tight drums, subdued, often tremoloed guitar ducking in and out of the mix, chattering echo, keys, environmental noise as dramatic counterpoint or punctuation. Opener, Emp Man's Blues slowly unfurls like a moth emerging from its pupa, the strings building from a low drone until, by the track's end, they're daubing thick 70s T-Rex shapes across the main melody. Spooked keyboard noises swamp the crawling, phased progression of A Tribute To. But the real shock comes on the following track. That's Being Held. One of the most tense pieces of music you will ever encounter. Slint's Britt Walford guests on the kit here, which dominates the song. A klaxon pattern, an unanswered warning maybe, and a brutally stuttering drum pattern hammering away without response. If you're the kind of person who thinks the drummer's just there to keep time, then give this track a listen. It is stunning. On then into the back end of the album, the oozing, lovely snoother, leading into the majestic Tales Live from the Crypt, and then Moonbeams smearing out into a desperately sad, despairing conclusion. And I think Brian McMahon owns this record completely. Yeah, his voice is thicker, lower, less disconnected from the underlying music than it felt on Spiderland. He plays the narrator role on this album perfectly, filling out the atmospheres with close-up, whispery terrors and confessions. Like many of you out there, I was a little late to the Spiderland party back at the dawn of the 90s, but once discovered, it's a difficult record to shake. And in following up on all the post-Slint solo projects, offshoots, side hustles, I can't have been the only one looking for that next hit. Something to steady the hands and soothe the need. Yeah, it took a while, 9 years in fact, but the 4 Carnation is it. Maybe not the sonic, but definitely the spiritual successor to Spiderland. And for me, every bit as good. So year 2000, and boy, have I been going to town on the post-rock the last couple of episodes. Yeah, it was where I was, and personally, I think this is right up there with Spiderland. I think it's a wonderful record, and I don't see enough people talking about it. As ever, we'll carry on this discussion further down below. Drop your comments down there. What would your album of 2000 be? And what do you think of the 4 Carnation? Another episode, another year, another decade this time. Thank you very much for watching this far. Yeah, please think about giving this video a like, and why not subscribe if you've not done so already. And with that, I'm out of here. Yeah, please do take care, and I hope to see you back on the channel again very, very soon. Bye for now.